Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Well, heads of state, heads of government, business leaders, friends, good morning to you all, and a very warm welcome to London, to the UK, and to a new start in our business partnership between my country and your countries, and indeed the whole continent of Africa.
You'll have seen him on your screens during the Gulf War. Those of you who watch Al Jazeera will have seen his program there. But Raggy doesn't stand still. He is now with Channel 4 at ITV as their International Affairs Director. He's a very interesting fellow because he knows an awful lot about two different cultures, the British culture and the Somaliland culture. And I can't think of anyone better today than to bridge that divide in a few words to you. So without further ado, Raggy, over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Hayden. Thank you. Thank you for those very kind words. Your Excellencies, First Lady, honoured guests. It's a great privilege just to try and say a few words, because I speak to you not just as a reporter and a documentary filmmaker who has covered the region and Somaliland, but as someone who has a very personal stake in the country, not only just coming from there, but having family living and working there. I remember first going back to Hargeisa. It was shortly after the Civil War had ended. I was just starting out in journalism. I'd finished at university, had a 3-month traineeship at the BBC. I went to Addis Ababa and made that journey by bus from the refugee camps in Dul'ad, just across the border, and went over with refugees to a city that was the only way to describe it was completely destroyed. There was barely a building that didn't look like sort of Swiss cheese with holes right the way through it. And yet even from that sort of moment, and I remember going back to my family home, I hadn't seen it really since I was 4 or 5 properly. One other visit when I was 12 or 13. Walked in and there was a family just living there who'd lost their home, and sort of was squatting in our sort of house. I think they got quite worried when they saw me. I thought they thought I'd come to drive them out, but I reassured them, don't worry, you can stay. But I think the most important thing is that from that time, when Somaliland really had to pick itself up from beyond nothing actually, there was very little. There was a drive and a determination and a sense of pride amongst the people to make a real success. It was almost a blank slate, which a lot of other countries in sub-Saharan Africa have never really sort of had. It was everything was a blank slate, and everything had to be rebuilt. Fast forward today to this conference, and you see, some people who weren't even born at the end of the Civil War today, who have gone to university here and keen in the diaspora to try and make a difference back in their own country, and people who themselves had fought in that civil war and are now businessmen or doctors or entrepreneurs trying to continue that. And I think it's very important, this kind of meeting, and it's been long overdue, simply because you're quite aware when you're in Somaliland of the huge human potential and potential of the country, not only just in its people, but in its vast untapped sort of resources. But often there isn't the real basis for making contacts and inroads and networks with people in the international commercial community. And vice versa for a lot of people, investors and companies who are increasingly interested in the awakening of the economic potential of sub-Saharan Africa, about who your potential partners are, not beyond the government, but in terms of individuals and companies, whether it's in agriculture, whether it's in extractive industries, whether it's in infrastructure. And I think what is remarkable here in feeling the energy is that it's an opportunity for both those worlds to actually see there are people with the same aims as them and with the same desire to actually build and, let's not mince words, to actually create wealth. And I think that this should only just be the start of what I hope will be many other such conferences that enable people from both the Somaliland and Somaliland diaspora and international companies and investors to see that they have like minds and a similar vision. And I also would just say, going back and putting my journalistic hat on, is that I've walked away from many different societies where you'd think that the level of upheaval and destruction would take many sort of years to overcome. I think what Somaliland does is that it holds out a very rare beacon that never sort of think that even from a blank slate that things cannot be built very quickly, but that there isn't also the will on behalf of the governments there to try and help engender that process. I just like to say I wish everybody here every success, and just to realize that, to quote previous British politicians, that Somaliland is very much open for business and would very much like the help and cooperation, and that what you will find is a very permissive and enabling environment. I think that's the key thing I'd like to get across to companies, many of whom I've talked to in a very unofficial capacity. You will find an environment in terms of the government and regulatory bodies that want to help you and enable you to achieve what you can. But they also need help to spread the word about Somaliland amongst your colleagues. Thank you.
I am reliably informed that this is the very first time that the UK and quite so many African nations have come together for an event of this kind.
Well, thank you very much indeed for joining us. And just before we start, could I just ask our audience to please turn on their translation devices? Thank you. President Kagame, may I start with you? With a new free trade agreement coming into force in July, what steps are you taking to maximise the benefits, especially for a landlocked nation? I'm going to ask you two questions, but I'll ask the first one first.
Yes. Well,
thank you so much. My name is Suhur. I came from a country which is called Somaliland. And I'm grateful to thank you for your kind welcome you provide us. And I'm great pleasure to ask you a request, not a question. You know, our country is peace and stable. We have a government, functional government. We have constitution, and still we didn't get any recognition from the international community, as well the African countries. So we are requesting for you to accept our request.
You have given me the most complicated task. Because there are international norms, there is all kinds of politics, there is a way to recognize an entity of government or country. I think you keep struggling with that. You keep proving your case until you reach that point. You have Somalia, as it were, says how many years ago, and then all of those were part of it, right? And then over time, a number of things happened, either wrong or right. Then you started having, you have Somaliland.
First of all, as we had even from the previous panel, the statistics were given, but let me say the story of African Continental Free Trade Agreement that was reached has become a reality. And that means political will also on the part of the leaders of the continent who came together previously with it was the president of Chad, it was the president of Guinea, Conde, who is on this panel, working with the rest of the continent leaders who put this in place. And this came supporting the effort and the quest for regional integration that we had always sought to achieve. So it has become a reality. And that means also that on our side, we have all along been investing in capacities to be able to trade and to attract investments. In fact, that's how Rwanda, in ease of doing business, the World Bank Index ranks Rwanda among the top countries where there is ease of doing business. We are number 2 in Africa. Last year, we were 29 in the whole world. So we are doing all that so that investments would be attracted, business across borders and beyond would also. And we've seen that with the Continental Free Trade Area, statistics show that intra-African trade is going to go up by up to 50%. So definitely this is a huge opportunity which Rwanda and other African countries have been prepared to benefit from as well as contribute to.
So good news ahead, hopefully. And what would you say your top priority is for encouraging investment into Rwanda?
Well, as I pointed to the ease of doing business, first of all, we have had to predict or put ourselves in the shoes of an investor and what would they be looking for in order for people to invest in our country. First of all, they need rule of law, they need predictability, they need to see good governance which tackles corruption, and so that so much money is not lost in the process of trying to register or acquire business. So we have ourselves focused on that as a priority, and that's why being ranked 29 in the world or second in Africa in the index of ease of doing business by the World Bank is not for nothing. It's because of those efforts exactly that have been put into it. The priority, therefore, has been that, and there are also areas whether it is manufacturing, it's infrastructure, there is hundreds of millions of dollars airport coming up, which we want people to invest in. It's energy, it's agro-business and processing, it's services sector that has been registering a huge growth in our economy. And we have also maintained the high growth. In fact, last year we registered over 8% growth. This year, meaning 2019, we may end up registering double-digit growth, and we are looking at the same thing this year, 2021.
That's a wonderful, wonderful achievement. I'd like to come to President Condé now. President, the private sector have a vital role to play in the success of the new agreement. Can you explain how you're working with the private sector to ensure that success? And I think President Condé is going to be speaking in French.
Oui. Enfermés seulement dans notre structure régionale, mais aussi que nous sommes ouverts à la coopération. Évidemment, nous savons le rôle que vous jouez actuellement au niveau de la Somalie, qui est une très grande préoccupation pour tout le monde, car nos frères somaliens connaissent une situation extrêmement difficile, malgré la présence des forces de l'Union africaine. Donc je suis très heureux de constater que vous avez convoqué les deux présidents, celui de Somalie et de Somaliland. D'abord, pour nous, il était extrêmement important d'améliorer les infrastructures, chemins de fer, ports et routes. Deuxièmement, la stabilité macroéconomique. Et surtout, nous avons créé, grâce à la coopération avec le président Kagame depuis 2011, nous avons créé l'Agence pour les investissements privés et le Conseil présidentiel et pour faciliter la coopération avec les entreprises privées et les plateformes. Ensuite, nous avons connu pendant 2 ans une croissance à 2 chiffres et en moyenne, nous avons une croissance entre 6 et 8%. Donc, pour tirer le maximum d'avantages de libre-échange, nous avons créé la chaîne de valeur, c'est-à-dire la transformation de toutes les matières premières agricoles comme miniers chez nous. C'est-à-dire la chaîne de valeur, par exemple, si je prends l'agriculture, c'est cultiver, transformer et transporter. La même chose pour nos mines, par exemple, la bauxite transformée en alumine et en aluminium, et aussi utiliser de nouvelles technologies pour améliorer, par exemple, on a créé le guichet unique du commerce et utiliser les nouvelles technologies pour mieux améliorer le fonctionnement de notre administration et casser la bureaucratie. Mais surtout créer un environnement favorable pour les investisseurs privés. Cela suppose donc qu'on ait des routes, qu'on ait l'énergie. Nous avons multiplié notre production d'énergie par 10. On était à 100 quand nous sommes arrivés. Aujourd'hui, on est à 1000 grâce à l'énergie mixte. Parce que notre objectif, évidemment, c'est l'énergie renouvelable. Donc, nous avons l'ARI que je préside. Donc aujourd'hui, nous développons l'énergie hydraulique et l'énergie solaire. Parce que pour que les entreprises puissent travailler, il faut qu'ils aient des routes, il faut qu'ils aient de l'énergie. Ensuite, il faut qu'on facilite. Aujourd'hui, pour créer une société en Guinée, il faut 24 heures. Mais Kagame vient de me dire qu'au Rwanda, c'est 6 heures. Donc, je vais faire mieux que lui, ça sera 5 heures.
Thank you very much, President. I wish my French was a little better, but I will work on it. But could you also tell us what your top priority is for improving Guinea's business environment?
Je pense qu'aujourd'hui, la priorité numéro 1 chez nous, c'est les infrastructures. Parce que nous avons fait beaucoup de progrès dans les autres secteurs. Nous avons créé un cadre de discussion entre les partenaires, entre le gouvernement et les privés. Nous avons dans la salle celui qui est chargé de l'Agence pour les investissements privés. Nous avons un ministre chargé des investissements privés. Nous avons le conseil présidentiel. Mais évidemment, il faut que nous avons aujourd'hui suffisamment d'hôtels. Il sait quand il est venu en 2011, quand ils sont venus, on n'avait pas beaucoup d'hôtels. Donc c'est vraiment créer des conditions les plus favorables. Ça veut dire que le développement de Blackbone, c'est-à-dire des nouvelles technologies, l'amélioration du port, puisque nous allons avoir maintenant un port à eau profonde, et surtout la facilitation de l'impôt, parce qu'aujourd'hui, nous utilisons les nouvelles technologies pour que les personnes puissent facilement, par exemple, avec le guichet unique aujourd'hui, toute la procédure de douane, d'investissement se fait en un seul. Vous pouvez rester chez vous et pouvoir dédouaner, savoir que votre marchandise arrive à telle date, vous n'avez plus besoin d'aller à la douane, et seulement vous payez à la banque centrale. Donc, c'est créer toutes les conditions pour que on casse le maximum de bureaucratie dans nos pays. Parce que vous savez, un des problèmes que nous avons, c'est la lourdeur de l'administration.
Thank you very much indeed, President.